Fine. Okay, so the topic of the class today is actually understanding suffering, which is one of those, like, how do I say, hitting on a sore spot type of questions. This class basically touches, even though it's mostly about my story and everything I've learned, it basically touches a universal issue that we all have to go through, and something that's more than not a block to people actually coming closer to God. So that's one of the reasons that I feel that it's actually very necessary to come out. I feel this is actually a share that everyone needs to hear, across the board, whether you're religious, not Jewish. It's something that is very universal and very important for us to be able to even like hit on the nose. Okay. A little bit about me, first of all. I'm actually a former Neve girl. I was here about 2 weeks before I actually got married. So thank God I wasn't there that long. But no, actually before I met the guy, and then I was here just on the phone the entire time with wedding halls and gemachs, and I don't know what they were paying for me to eat and plan my wedding for it. But anyway, thank God. I'm from a Russian background. My parents are card-carrying Russian heavy hitter, scientist, mathematicians, you know, extraordinary, extra strong-willed, typical Russian Jews. So what does that make me? Very highly pressured, you know? A very highly pressured immigrant. Go out there, succeed, make sure you make a lot of money, have a lot of respect, and get everything that we couldn't get in our homeland because everyone capped us. So that makes for a very healthy upbringing. I was raised in Toronto, and you know, got my marching orders. My mission was planned. I went out there. I did very well in school. I became, of course, a ballerina and a pianist, because you absolutely have to have one or the other. But of course, I'm the overachiever. I have to have both. And eventually made it to law school because, of course, you know, I didn't like blood, and that was my only other option. It's so funny, actually, we just had a guest for Shabbos, and he said, my parents are very open-minded. They told me that I could be any kind of doctor that I want. So my parents were extremely open-minded. I went to law school, and thank God I used what I could, and I did very, very well. And lo and behold, I reached my parents' dreams of becoming a top-notch lawyer at the top firm in Toronto. Okay, I had my suit, I had my briefcase, I had my, you know, name card with all these different letters beside it, and, you know, all the people that worked with me had spinning accounts and horses and shoppers, and I was done. I thought, I did it, you know? I spent 24 years of my life, and now I have a private secretary, and I'm going to be earning 6 figures, and I looked around me, and I was a little bit confused. There was 100 lawyers. And I went looking around, you know, they were all successful. We were at the firm that no one could get into. And there was 2 happy lawyers out of 100. And I certainly wasn't one of them. I was slaving away from morning to night. My parents, every cocktail party, our daughter, she's a lawyer. She works for that firm. You know, and my friends, my friend, you know, she's a lawyer. The only problem is that the lawyer couldn't say, I'm a lawyer. I just said, oh my gosh, what have I done? I think I'm just selling my life into hourly increments. I'm just selling it away because I have no time to do anything, and I have no enjoyment, and I'm not really actually doing anything. I'm merging X company with Y company, but as soon as some guy in China says sell, it's all over. And it's a big pile of bricks, and I didn't really do anything with my life. So I said, okay, well, this is interesting. I said, I thought life was about making money, having respect so that you can have freedom, which will make you happy. But I had the money, I had the respect, I didn't have any freedom, and I definitely wasn't happy. I said, this equation doesn't work. I said, maybe everyone else thinks so because they haven't gotten there, but I actually got there, and I understand that it's not true. So I said, you know, I don't know what life is about, but this is definitely not it. You know, all those people in the world that think that this is it, they just have no idea what they're talking about. So I said, I'm going to play process of elimination. Anyone ever heard of the term called the golden handcuffs? It's when you're paid so much that you're actually a slave to what you're doing, because you You're handicapped by it. You can't possibly leave the spending accounts and everything else. You're handcuffed to your job. All my friends thought, you're leaving? Are you crazy? You're quitting the job? People would give their left arm to have this job. I said, you're miserable. I'm miserable. You're staying. I'm leaving. I'm crazy? Just because you're following your society? Yeah.
I'm just in awe. Is there any way that you could have stayed and just made yourself happy somehow? Did it have to be that you left?
In that firm, no. Maybe I could have made a life with a little bit more balance in a different firm. By the way, no firm would hire me after that because they all just left. Are you kidding? You're leaving that firm for us? We don't take you seriously. Maybe, but I would have had snippets of happiness, but I wouldn't have been fulfilled in my life. No way.
I'm having a really hard time empathizing. I'm sorry. I'm trying.
Oh, okay. You don't have to empathize.
Yeah.
We'll get to the part where you're going to empathize. Don't worry. I don't need your empathy yet. Okay, we'll get there, but we will talk about this after if you want. I will definitely go through with you. We all have to eat.
Yeah.
We'll have to eat. That's okay. But you don't have to make your life about making sure that you have stocks and stocks of food that you would never have time to eat for. Okay, so what did I do? I said, you know what? I don't know what life is about, but I actually kind of had a good time. I feel fulfilled actually reaching challenges, making challenges and actually getting there. I had a good time in law school. I had a good time actually like fulfilling something. So I said, I'm gonna actually look for a big mountain that I can climb, and I'm gonna have a good time actually getting up there. So I said, what's a bigger mountain that I can climb? Hollywood. Nobody gets to the top of Hollywood. I'm going to Hollywood, and I'm gonna try to make it. So I quit my job. Within 30 days, I had a flight booked to Hollywood to meet Dono. A week later, I happened to be at a certain social circle, and I met the top lawyer for all of Hollywood, for Canada. Everybody goes to him, and a few other people. Anyway, I got off the plane. I was meeting with CBS, NBC, all the agencies, Fox. I realized, oh my gosh, this place is actually worse than the one that I came from. The one where I came from, people are just empty and, you know, it's all about the superficials. But here they're actually addicted. They have this like unhealthy bipolar relationship with what they hate it, but they need it. I said, this is definitely not a place to search for happiness, that's for sure. But in the meantime, I took the bar. I said, you know what, I'm gonna go actually climb some mountains and look around the world and see what other people are doing. What other people around the world, what do they find fulfilling? You know, definitely in North America, this whole chase for success is not it. So let's see what the world is doing. So I traveled and traveled and traveled. I went to 25 countries. I dove with sharks. I climbed the tallest mountain in Nepal, other than Everest. I climbed the mountain beside Everest. I hang glided off the Swiss mountains. I had a lot of, I looked for thrill-seeking, something to open up, and I spoke to a lot of natives. And eventually I decided that I was so close to India, I was curious. You know, there's this guru in the world called the Dalai Lama. And what is the Dalai Lama all about? Peace, happiness, tranquility. I'm gonna go talk to him. My way, whoever I'm meeting is definitely not there. I'm gonna go talk to him. I'm gonna ask him for a little advice. I'm gonna see what he says. What should I do with my life? Maybe he has some guidance. And I spent 3 months waiting for him, a few days with my passport, and gosh, if you knew what I had to go through. The 24 hours not eating in different places because they serve you on newspapers and little I don't know, seeds of some kind. Anyway, I had a very disappointing experience. He was a very, how do I say, concentrated, meditative man, but didn't quite blow me away. But on the way, I did meet and experience a lot of things that showed me that the finite world was basically running out for me. I was basically 25. I'd read all the books I wanted to read. I had fulfilled all of the dreams I wanted to do, and I said, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? What am I going to do with 75 years of my life? I have no more challenges to overcome that I want to overcome. I'm not looking for anything else. Anyway, I realized this is this entire spiritual world that never runs out. It never runs out. There's so much I can explore and do and become, and no matter how much I do, and no matter how successful I am in the spiritual world, I will never reach the top. I will always have something else to do. I will always have greater goals. I will never make it. I have a lifelong journey that I will never achieve. There's never a ceiling. There's only a certain amount of countries. There's only a certain amount of beaches you can go to. There's only a certain amount of things in this world and books you can read. But the spiritual world is endless, and it's endless pleasure, endless experience, endless goals to overcome and achieve. And I also realized that in my search for the perfect resume, I had completely skipped over the perfect person. Becoming the perfect person, giving, making the world a better place. These aren't values that were actually looked up upon in the society that I was in. Nobody said to you, nobody cared about how much you gave to other people, about how good of a person you are. Everyone valued how much money you make, how you dress, what your reputation is. And for the first time in my life, I actually saw that I was wasting all of my time. Just wasting. Again, we have to eat, but it doesn't have to be a goal unto itself. Famous quote, to eat to live or live to eat. And I made a decision. I looked up and I said, I'm willing to do, and I don't know who I was talking to, because I definitely didn't have the name God in my home. But I knew that there's a spiritual world, an order, a unification, a providence to things. And I looked up and I said, I am willing to go where you lead me. I'm just willing to go. I'm willing to hear, I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to go, even if it's hard, even if it's not the path that everyone else is traveling. I'm willing to just go because I know I'm unique, and I know I'm here for a specific purpose, and I'm willing to lead. I'm willing to follow wherever you lead me. And within 6 months, I was in Israel. I went through the seminary experience, much like you guys. And after a while, I decided, actually the truth is that every night for 2 years, I prayed that I would meet my soulmate. Every single.
How did you get to seminary?
How did I get to seminary?
What led you? Why did you?
I came here on birthright, and before I went home, I decided I was going to volunteer for a charity. And I walked into someone's house because someone else had something to give back to a Rebbetzin, and a Rebbetzin actually looked at me in her house, and she said, I've been looking for you. And she gave me a sheet, and it said, Charity to Help the Victims of Terrorism. It was the beginning of the Intifada. And I said, this is great. This is what I've been looking for. Remember, I'm just following. This is in front of me. I decided, I had a thought. I'm going to work for a charity. This woman came up to me, gave me a paper of a charity. This must be my next project. So great. I looked into it. It all made sense. Of course, you can't just follow blindly. You have to use your mind, your heart. Everything has to be in sync, or else who knows, we'd be suicide bombers at this point. And she happened to be the ex-assistant of the guru, the Maharishi. Maharishi was actually the Beatles guru. And so as we sat and built this charity to help the victims of terrorism, she would teach me about Judaism, and I'd teach her about astrology and crystals. And she'd tell me to take my crystals to the mikvah, so and her husband actually used to travel Afghanistan. He was worshipped by pygmies once upon a time. And he thought he was a holy guru. Now he's a holy rabbi. And so we had a lot to talk about. And on the way, she sent me to visit her Rebbetzin in Tzfat. And in Tzfat, I had a hard time because I kept saying, how is it possible that there's a monopoly on spirituality in Judaism? Why such an exclusivity? There are so many dogmas out there. There are so many paths to enlightenment. This person says this way, this person says that way. Why are you telling me that this is the only way? I know the broadness of what there is. And then I met a rabbi in Tzfat, Rav Koenig. in the East, everyone's always searching for a guru. They're always climbing a mountain here and there, trying to meet the holy man, the 100-year-old that, doesn't eat and levitates. And so I went to meet the Jewish guru. And as I sat in front of him, I said, this is the closest thing to what I can imagine God would feel like. I said, if Judaism got him here, I have to take this very seriously, because he was a mountain next to a molehill, next to the Dalai Lama. No comparison. And after that, I know I'd been living my life in terms of that everything was for a reason. And what's my purpose? And someone looked at me and said, you were born a Jew, and it's not a coincidence. And I knew that nothing in the world is a coincidence. But hold on a second, but I really was born a Jew. I wasn't born a frog. I wasn't born an animal. I wasn't born an Indian who is a Sikh. I was born a Jew. And if everything is in synchronicity in the world, I have to take the fact that I was born a Jew very seriously in terms of my plan, in terms of the plan for me. I didn't create myself. I just popped into the world. To think about it. I wasn't born a man, I was born a woman. Why was I born a woman and not a man? I have to think about it. Either everything is random and there was, this big bang and everything, and all these particles just flew everywhere and somehow we just became this, and somehow I just am able to speak and I'm able to intellectualize and I'm able to learn and, I'm able to feed myself and all these things, and it's just because some giant big... Or there's actually some order in the world. There's actually, an amazing genetic code called DNA, and the fact that there's one amino acid different in another person means that they have a totally different eye color, and the fact that there's one amino acid different in this person means that all of a sudden, their leg is a little bit deformed, but all of us seem to have eyes in the same place, and a nose in the same place, and a mouth in the same place. Isn't that amazing? There's so much in the world that is so exacting. Scientists know it. Somehow we think like everything's all random, and I realize I really have to take Judaism seriously. Because if the greater order of things decided that I'm a Jew and I'm a female Jew, I better sit and think about maybe there's something for me specifically. A Porsche cannot just have diesel fuel. Every car is not the same. A truck has diesel fuel. A Porsche has to have a certain type of fuel that goes into it because it was made in a certain way. And if it takes the same type of fuel, it will die. So you have to understand who you are, what kind of fuel you need, and what kind of path you need based on what you've been created. And I take no credit for it whatsoever. Why? Because I really didn't have a choice whether or not I was a frog or a person. I just came here. I just popped into existence, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing here. So everything is a clue. Back to where we came from. Okay. I was in seminary, and for 2 years, every single night, I davened. Let me meet my soulmate. Let me meet my soulmate. I gave it up to you. I'm going in the way. I'm going whatever way. My way is not your way. Is not his way. Is not. I'm going this way. So for sure, if I have a soulmate in the world, he's got to come near my path. If I'm not leading it so tight-fisted, if I'm allowing myself to go in the right path, no matter what it is, he's got to somehow interject somewhere. So for 2 years, I davened every day. I said, keep me in seminary for as long as possible. I want to learn all of the lessons that I need to learn in order to get married within a classroom, not dating. So that's what happened. So 2 years later, literally, I started to get like some kind of allergic reaction in my classroom. So I said, I don't know what's going on, but I have to leave. So I left. And because I left, someone actually came. I didn't have permission to date within that seminary. Because I left, someone came out to me and said, I know your soulmate. I said, you're joking, right? No, really, I know your soulmate. Okay, fine, I'll try it. Yeah, 5 dates later. Yeah. How old am I now?
How old are you?
28. It's late in life already.
The seminary told you that you were your soulmate, or someone random?
Someone that I used to live with, a girl. She married his friend. So, but in the old seminary, right? So I met this guy, and I didn't know what this soulmate was going to look like. All of a sudden, he's wearing this black hat and this black suit, and I said, "Oh, he's one of those." But I married him anyway. And anyway, we decided, he was also from a business background, and we decided we were going to be very idealistic. We both knew we had something to fall back on. But we said, you know what, we're doing it. We're shedding the rest, we're shedding what we came from, and we're doing it. We're going for gold. He wanted to learn. I said, I just want to sit in a spiritual mikveh in Israel. And we moved to the old city, and he went to a yeshiva called Birkas Torah, and he started to learn. Had a few kids, started an organization called westernwallprayers.org. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's 40 days of prayer at the Kotel. We were giving out to the community. We felt, connected to each other, connected to God, connected to the community. We had a positive space. It was a very full and busy life. One kid after another, 5 kids, thank God. He eventually became the executive director of his yeshiva, barely slept, and that was it. Okay, now comes to actually why I'm here. Okay, get ready to empathize. Okay. Anyway, what happened? So every 6 weeks, him and I used to go away for a couple of days, and every week we actually had a date. For years and years and years. That was the way we actually were able to evolve together, even though we were so busy. So it came upon his 40th birthday. And we put the kids, gave the kids a babysitter at home. We decided to go away. He had points for Fantasy Hotel in Tel Aviv, very spiritual, Shabbostic place. Mm-hmm. It's a very holy Shabbos. We made it holy. So what we used to do is we used to actually like to go out to like a very secluded beach, and he used to be a lifeguard in Chicago. He used to be a beach lifeguard, and so he used to think of the beach as his swimming pool. He used to like to go out beyond the waves and then swim. Okay, we all had heart attacks all the time, but that was normal for him. And of course, he used to save people out there, so that was normal. So normally I went in with him, but this time I decided to stay on the sand. He was out there for about 15 minutes, then 20 minutes, then 25. And it was a day that was actually very murky, and there was no one out there. And I couldn't see him for a while. I started to panic, and I went up to the street. I started to call the lifeguard. Of course, there's no lifeguard there because it was a secluded place. But eventually got a hold of someone on the phone, and I eventually did see him. I pulled him out along with someone else. He had been struck by something in the back of his head, and he had been knocked unconscious in the middle of the water. He was there for a very, very, very long time. They did CPR on him for at least 25 minutes, and I didn't think there was any hope whatsoever after what I saw. But eventually they did get a slight pulse back. Now, it was Erev Shabbos. It was 2 hours before candlelighting, and I was on the phone with absolutely everyone I could possibly imagine, from every rabbi in person. Everyone was instructed to go to the wall, to cry, scream, beg, take on whatever they could. Emails were sent out all around the world. And I got to the hospital with him just in time to light candles for Shabbos as he lay unconscious. And stranger after stranger just gave me food, gave me keys to a place to stay overnight, and nothing left but me and my thoughts. He never came out of that coma. It lasted about 30 hours. He had been brain dead when he had been taken out. 8 o'clock on Sunday morning, after not having slept for about 40 hours, after giving forgiveness and asking forgiveness and talking out everything I could possibly imagine to let his soul go free, to get my marching orders for the rest of my life without him. I had about 20 minutes after he died to decide where he was being buried, where we were having the funeral, who was going to pay for what, which people were going to actually be caregivers for my kids at different times, and straight on the phone to like the #1 education expert. What in the world do I do now? Okay, therein started the rest of my life. I got back home, and my 5 kids were then 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Very old, very mature, very able to handle such a test in their life. But here we are talking the talk, that life is just about coming closer to God, doing Torah and mitzvahs. And now it was time to walk the walk. As I came in the house, I had someone individually be with each of them so that they did not hear the news, because everyone was instructed. Only I was to tell them, as the entire Old City, the entire Jerusalem started hearing. One by one, each one walked into the room, half an hour, whatever they needed in order to process, ask questions, whatever they needed to do. And then they would be instructed to go into another room while their sister or brother came in so that they didn't hear from anyone else except me. It was about 10 hours till the funeral, because we were waiting for his parents to actually fly in, who did not know yet. And I said, your father's been giving to you your whole life. He's been doing your diapers, he's been providing you food, he's been there for you. What could you do for him? I said, I know you're very young. But this came to you, now it's your opportunity to do for him. There's a halacha that when you go to a cemetery, you have to tuck in your tzitzit. Why? Because the dead, it actually pains them. Someone else is getting a mitzvah. Someone else is coming closer to God, and they can't do it anymore. They're finished. Whatever they got, wherever they are in the scheme of the spiritual world, that's where they are, and they can't do more. And so in order not to hurt them, in order not to show them how much you're doing to get closer to God and that they can't do it anymore, you have to tuck it in. And I said, but you know what? You guys can do the opposite. Abba, your father was the tree, and you are the fruits of his tree. When you go out there, when you do something good, when you do a mitzvah, when you are kind to someone, when you come closer to God, when you pray, that's you declaring that you are coming closer to God, that you're actually following in his footsteps. And he up there says, you know what? That's my son. Do you see that? That's my son who I taught. I put him into the world, and he's coming closer to you, and he's making the world a better place. That's because of me. I said, your father is going to go up and up and up and come closer to God because of what you do now. Now you can help him. He'll be up there, and he'll be praying for you your whole life, and he'll be watching you, and you won't see him for a while, hopefully a long time. But you'll still have a relationship, and now you'll be able to give him something he can't do for himself. Any mitzvah you do, you actually give to him. You actually create a better place for him. You actually make him come closer to God. So now's your chance. Your relationship has just changed. It's just evolved. And they heard it. And these bionic kids, and I say that sarcastically because we're all capable of this. We just didn't learn it early enough. These bionic kids said, I got it. And they came into the funeral, and like soldiers, they said Kaddish, and they proclaimed that God is great. Did they cry? They cried. Did they feel pain? They felt pain. Pain is unavoidable. But they understood the system and the cycle and life, what you need to do. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control who you are and what you do as a result. And they rose to the challenge, and they all said Kaddish, and they were all there, and my son said Kaddish, 9 years old. For a year, he was in shul every day saying Kaddish. And everyone else kept looking at him saying, does he just not get it? Does he not know what's going on? No, he knows exactly what's going on. He knows he lost his Abba, and it hurts. He is there to say, Abba, I understand what you taught me. I believe what you taught me. I believe I'm here to do something. I believe I'm here to come closer to God. And I want to be on your team with you. I want to help you come closer. And I'm going to continue in your footsteps. And I'm going to be there. And I'm going to take the teachings. And I'm going to go through it. And I'm going to teach my kids, God willing, and my grandkids. And I thank you. Okay, now came the Shiva. We got to the Shiva. You know, they say that when two people are two halves of a whole, whatever the other half is doing, you actually get credit for. Whatever you do, the other person gets credit for. Because you're really just kind of like using the gifts of each other. You know, one person's the arms, one person's the legs, but you're one being. So when my husband went out and he did all of these things, it's really me doing it. You know, because I was the reason, I supported him in the family, and I was, you know, here at home, so he didn't have to be. And likewise, what I was doing, he was really doing. So I could have, you know, I needed a little bit of chizuk, I needed a little bit of support during the Shiva, and I looked around, I said, okay, for everyone in yeshiva, I said, I was doing a lot of diapers, and I was handling a lot of screaming kids while he was out there, and now you guys all owe me. I want to know what I was doing out there. I want to know what he was doing, so I could feel good. And so, only to make me feel happy, they started to talk. One by one, started to talk. His Rosh Hashiva looked around in the middle of this, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people, and he said, David. Puts his arm around the guy beside him. He said, David came to our yeshiva a couple years ago. So David was interesting. He didn't really fit in very well, you know. He had like a lot of color, and he jumped while he prayed, and he really wanted to be part of our yeshiva. So your husband Gershon said to me, please accept him. He said, you know, we're a bunch of black and white like learners sitting and stagging. What the makesher? He doesn't look like he's really going to fit in here and do well. And my husband said, no, you don't understand him. On the inside, he's like us. You have to see what's inside him. And Rosh Hashiva said, you know what? He looks like he doesn't seem to have any money, and I don't have any scholarships available. Does he have any money? No. Okay, sorry, can't let him in. So Gershon said to him, you know what, I'm going to go talk to his parents. Maybe they can provide something. Maybe they can put in a little bit of tuition. Comes back a day later. Talked to his parents. His parents are willing to pay for tuition, and everything else he'll work off. This Rabbi Tiger actually said, I'm giving him 2 weeks. If he doesn't fit in after 2 weeks, he's out. Looks at David. He said, David, a year later, David became an all-star in our yeshiva. He's now actually a tutor. He could give a shiur at any yeshiva in Jerusalem at this point. He's an Ilui. An Ilui means someone who's like incredibly involved. He still wears all the color. He's just an incredibly evolved, amazing Talmud Chacham. He said a year later, he saw David selling flowers for 20 shekels an hour. He said, how in the world can this guy afford $18,000 a year in tuition? He thought it was a little strange. He went to check in with his parents. Turns out his parents didn't pay a penny of his tuition. What's going on here? He went back to Gershon and he said, what happened? And he realized that Gershon had actually paid for his tuition without telling him. He looked at David in the middle of my shiva, and David looked at him. He said, there's tuition at this yeshiva? This was a secret that would have never been let out if it wasn't for the fact that I just looked around and said, please tell me something to help me feel better. So that's why he revealed it. By the way, we were not wealthy at all. I have no idea to this day where he got the money. We didn't have a car. We were living month to month. It's actually very funny when I hear about this. Like, okay, great. The money just must have dropped out of the sky. To fundraise somewhere, I don't know. Then it became fun. Then it really started to become fun. One person after the other. By the way, the place to be this week was my house. This was like, boom, every moment was a different story, a different story. You can't believe it. No, for sure you're not going to hear it. You for sure didn't know this one that he did. Someone came over and they said there was this store in the old city that actually offered this promotion that whenever there was a kid in the old city, by the way, it's hundreds of little Israeli kids in the old city, whenever there was a kid that had a birthday, they would come into the store and they would be entitled to a free helium balloon. And they would run out and be so excited and so happy. For years they were doing this. But whenever anyone had like a siyum, which is when they finished a certain amount of Torah within school, they could get 2. Because for Torah you get double. or bar mitzvah. And actually you can even get balloons for your parents, which kids are able to like go actually give presents to the parents. So kids would like run in all the time. My kids would wait all the time for their birthdays. We're going to the Citrons to go get a helium balloon. Anyway, the owner of the store told somebody something, and she said, for sure Batya knows about this, right? And the person said, I don't think Batya knows anything. And she ran home. She ran to my house and she said, you're not going to believe this, but that entire balloon idea was your husband's. He pushed them to do it, and at the end of every month, he just gave them whatever the bill was. I said, my kids used to go out and get these balloons, and I remember one time they popped the balloon and they ran back. They're like, no, we'll get another one. And my husband was like, don't worry about it, it's okay. You got the one balloon. He never told us a thing. By the way, after that, there were 9 people that competed to actually be the anonymous donors for that balloon. And to this day, actually, in Shari Tzedek, once a month, people all over Facebook wanted to donate money to be the anonymous balloon donors. So Shari Tzedek, at the kids section, once a month in Rosh Chodesh, the kids get free balloons from an anonymous donor in America. Another story, someone came in, I don't know if she knows the story to this day, but there was a woman in our community. They were having some issues, her and her husband, because her mother was sick and she was very sad. She didn't have enough money to go visit her mother. And so my husband actually told her, he found a credit card program that if she signed up at that point, she actually got enough points that if she was able to sign up with a certain airline, that number of points was the exact number of points that she needed to be able to get to New York. So she can go for free. So he said to her, this amazing program, etc. She's like, fantastic. He said, why don't you give me details and I'll fill it out. She said, you learn full time, you have 5 little kids at home, and you're responsible for $1 million budget for yeshiva. Are you sure you really need, to be doing this also? He said, don't worry about it, I know this very well. He filled out the form, bought the plane ticket, gave it to her. There was no credit card for him, ever. There was no points program. He did it so that she would have no idea that anybody gave her the money, because there's absolutely no way that she would have accepted, a donation from someone she knew. People have too much pride for such things. Again, I have no idea where he got this money. I could have used a trip to New York, actually, also. Anyway, story after story after story. So many stories, actually, that Sarah Rigler wound up writing an article that week at my house at the Shiva, just writing it down, talking to all of us on Aish.com, and it became the #1 article of all time. There are people who actually became Jewish and call him their Rebbe, just from the article, and they just came out with this book. There was a Facebook group developed that was called the Secret Chassid Chabura, where people would compete over being able to do a secret chassid, of course, and then post it all over Facebook so all their friends knew, but that's the thought that counts. They would create secret charity. If they found an old lady who didn't have enough money to pay for her electricity, they would create programs and letterhead of a gemach. A gemach is like an organization that basically has funding, and they would say, look, just give me your name and you'll get this much money. It's fine. It's not really lying. It's her. By the way, he had to ask a rabbi every single thing he did. He had to ask a rabbi, is this okay? Is this justifiable? Is this okay? Because he couldn't just lie. Okay, so herein is actually the reason why I came here. A lot of people were very affected. They were very inspired, but they were also very shaken. Why? I'm going to ask the obvious question that was basically, whether you're the most religious or the least religious, it doesn't really matter. It's a human quality in all of us to ask this question, and that is, how could something so bad and so tragic happen to someone so good? There's sort of this wanting in all of us, and this sort of expectation in all of us of justice. That good should be rewarded with good, and bad should be rewarded with bad. That's how we feel. That's what we feel is fair. Someone who's good gets good. Someone who's bad gets bad. I mean, if I were God and I made a world and I could do whatever I want and make it on any principles, that's what I would do, right? The good people get good, the bad people get bad. I mean, I run my house like that. My kids are good, they get treats. The kids are bad, they go in to get punishment. So everyone sees what's the right thing to do. Otherwise, it's very confusing, no? We have this concept of fair. You've done this much, you get this many treats. You've done this much, you get this many treats. Fair. Just and fair. We make courts of law. We want justice, we want fairness for all people. Equality. Bathrooms for everybody, doesn't matter which one. Everyone's equal. When I was 11 years old, I had 2 bedrooms, 2-level house, 2 bedrooms, and I was the only child. And my mother was going to have another child. And so she said, "We're moving." I said, "Really?" Wow. We had, I think, at that point, 250 square feet, the backyard, the whole thing. I said, "Why are we moving?" She said, "We have another kid, we need more space." I said, "Okay, I got it, you know. I have my own room, my kid needs her own room. Okay, fine." So we went through this whole elaborate thing to buy a big house with 5 bedrooms so that the kid could, I don't know, have a bedroom for each doll. I didn't really get it, but whatever. Okay, we have more people, we need more space. I was totally shocked when 11 people moved into my house. A family of 11 people moved into my 2-bedroom house, and my family of almost 4 people were moving into a 5-bedroom house. I said, "It's not fair. This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We're moving out because we need more space. We have 4 people. They're moving in. They have 11 people. They're 11 people. They should go get the 5-bedroom home. We're 4 people. We should get the 2-bedroom home. That's fair. More people need more space. Less people need less space. Isn't that fair?" Again, if I were God, this would be my world. Something's... And then I went through life and I started to look around and I saw there were so many things that were not fair. You know, isn't it amazing how like the people that had all the notes and like sat from morning to night and didn't go out and they studied and studied and studied and studied and like their CAP was a B+. And there's people that just like wandered in, you know, after nights of partying, whatever it was, and there they get their A. And they did nothing. It's totally not fair. The one that sits and studies and does all the diligence and wants it so badly and is willing to work hard for it, he should get the A. And the one that doesn't care and doesn't do anything and slacks off, they should get the B. I mean, if I were God, this is my world. And then I went through school and I saw, there were all these sweet, wonderful girls. They were kind, they wouldn't hurt a fly, and just no one really liked them so much. You know, and then there's all these girls who would talk about everyone and they were so mean and like people were just like falling all over them to try to like get them to be their friend. It totally didn't make any sense to me. It's totally not fair. The people that are nice and sweet and good and don't speak about you and are loyal, they should be the ones that everyone wants to be friends with, and they should have a lineup of people like, "Please, can I be your best friend?" And then the girls that are mean and rude and nasty and superficial, no one should want to be friends with them. Put them on the other side so that everyone knows they're not the people to be friends with. If I were God, this would be my world. And then there's all the people who spend so much time trying to have the right hair, you know, and they had all the right conditioners and they had all the right like curling irons and everything. They work so hard and and the girls that just woke up and threw on a ponytail and walked out the door and their hair was like perfect. Or the girls that bought a nice shape doll. It's just not fair. It's totally not fair. So the more we look around at life, the more we really see that it's really all not fair. So we really only have 2 options, as I see it. Either life is not fair, or maybe we just don't understand life. Maybe we just don't get it. For me, sometimes life is exciting. Sometimes it's just sad and surreal. And sometimes it's a nice place to be. But always it's a stage. And when I say stage, I mean stage in the Kabbalistic terms. Two meanings. It's a stage in terms of time. There was something before this place, and there will be something after this place. And it's a stage in terms of a platform for a scene. We all have a scene we're living in. We all have a character. Sometimes we play the tree. Sometimes we play Mr. Romeo. And in this stage, we're not just wearing clothes. We're wearing a body. We're wearing a body for a certain amount of time, and then we won't be anymore. Then we'll actually be what we are. What are we? What am I? I am a potentially eternal being that's been brought to this place to learn something, that's been brought to this place to become more beautiful. Why are we needed here? Because we have something left to fix. We have something left to do. We have a piece of the world to bring into fruition, a piece of ourselves to bring out into the world. And all the things that happened to us, and all the gifts that we were given, and all the bad hair days, and all the characteristics, and whatever it is, whatever life events we have, it's here for our own perfection. And as we perfect ourselves, being a piece of the entire world, we perfect the world, and the entire world goes up with us. And just as we've been given incredible gifts, some of us have incredible intellectual talent, some of us have incredible will, some of us are funny, some of us are sweet. Some of us have a mother who just won't get off our back if we don't eat enough in the morning. Some of our brothers just totally traumatized us our whole life by just bullying us. Some of our friends abandoned us, and teachers just were close to abusive. Why? Why me? I was always the nice one. Why not them? Why did he get the DNA and I didn't get it? Why did he get that amino acid and I didn't? Why didn't I get the blue eyes? I always wanted blue eyes. Didn't he get my order? Is money good? No?
No, it is.
It is good. Okay. Anyone have any other ideas? Money can be good. Back in my heyday, I remember a business associate. He was 26 years old, self-made millionaire, had $100 million in the bank to his disposal. He actually lent BlackBerry the money to start up. Working morning to night, slaving away, slaving away. So why don't you go, have some fun? Why don't you go retire, or, I don't know, travel a little bit? No. I'm going to stop when I have a helicopter that takes me from my beachfront apartment to my private plane to my private island. I need $300 million for that. I'll stop when I have $3 million. $300 million. Still slaving away. Still not married. Still not fulfilled. But almost has that $300 million to be happy. And then I know people who have gajillions, and all day long they're accepting people at their door, handing out, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? What's your plus? What's your calling people? Who needs the money the most? I need to get money to the people that need it the most. Where can I get it? Is money good? Is money bad? I don't know. For one, it kills them. For another, it saves hundreds, thousands of lives. It depends. Does it depend on the money? No, not at all. It's just a thing you were given. It depends on the person and the choice that they make of what to do with it. Is beauty good? I happen to know a lot of models that spend the entire day cracked up, morning to night. Horrible social lives, horrible love lives, just totally in the trash. And there's people who use it to be spokespeople, use their fame to be spokespeople to help people in Guatemala. Is beauty good? Is beauty bad? It depends. What'd you do with it? Is suffering good? Is suffering bad? It's painful. It's incredibly painful. What'd you do with it? There's people who suffered and they become bitter, angry people. And they're going to make sure that everyone else is going to suffer because they're going to haze like they were hazed. It happened to me. And by the way, I'm not even liable. The world can't judge me. I was abused, I'll abuse. I have a free pass, no one can judge. By the way, it's amazing how we're not allowed to judge people, but everyone judges God. We're PC, except when it comes to God. Sorry, you better justify this now. I want to know exactly why you did this. Why'd you give me sight and not the other person? No, that of course I got sight. You owe me that. The way I see it, there's actually two kinds of suffering. There's the suffering that's sent by God, and that suffering is meant to heal us. In Egypt, the plagues actually, there's a midrash that the plagues weren't just for the Egyptians, they were also for the Jews. But there was one major difference that made the entire world of difference. We went through the plagues just like the Egyptians went through the plagues, but for the Egyptians it was a punishment, and for the Jews it was actually a healer. It actually prepared us for the next level. It prepared us to actually be able to receive divine light. For the Egyptians, it was just hurt. For the Jews, it got them to the next stage of life. It transformed them to be incredibly spiritual beings that could actually be able to hold the divine light for the sake of the entire world. We are the Kohanim to the world. Just like the Kohen, we have levels within Judaism where there's Levis and there's Kohens, and the Kohens put their fingers up and all of a sudden the light goes through them. The same thing happens for us in the nations of the world. The light goes through us. How does that happen? We don't put our hands up. Well, we do in a way. We put our hands up. We say, I know this is from you. I know this is from you, and whatever you give me, I'm going to come closer to you through it. Why? For you, for them, for everybody. Because I don't control what comes to me. No longer do I control. I didn't even control that I came into this world. I didn't choose life. I didn't choose a world. I don't choose anything except who I am and who I become as a result of what you've given me. And in this way, I am like you. Just like you create, I also create. I create me. That's the one thing I can do that makes me like God. I am in your image because I create myself. My choice. You don't do that. You created my eye color. I create what I see through my eyes and how I see the world. So the first kind of suffering is the kind that Hashem sends, and that heals. And the second kind of suffering is the kind that we create, and that kind destroys us. It's the rejection of the pain. It's the questioning of the pain, the anger that goes along with the pain, the bitterness, the regret, the tzimtzum. This is the secondary. This is the judgment of the pain. We don't need to judge it. When we know and we accept and we understand that every bullet has an address, that everything is exactly meant to be, and if we're going to question what bad comes to us, we better question the good. Why did I get a loving parent? There's so many people that don't have parents at all. Why did I get one? Why did I get an aunt that was good to me? Some people don't have anyone that's good to me. Why did I get that? I don't deserve that. We only question the bad. That doesn't make any sense. When we don't judge, when we accept, when we don't push away the pain that comes to us. By the way, we are not masochists. Judaism is not about suffering at all. But if it did come to us, then we know at least how to receive it, how to make it a healer, how to actually have spiritual transformation through it, rather than having it destroy us. And that comes through us. Just like money is parv. Anyone know what parv is? It's not meat, it's not milk, it's just it. It's like salt. Whatever you put salt on, it makes that thing taste more. It's us that decides whether or not money is good or bad. It's us that decides whether or not beauty is good or bad. It's us that decides whether or not suffering is good or bad. How many people suffered when they were younger only to become incredible lights when they're older, only to decide to help the other people because they're so much more empathetic and compassionate to those who went through the same thing? And they go out and they help them, and if it wasn't for the thing that caused them all that pain, they would have never been able to help other people. And all those other people are so thankful that they went through that. God forbid they didn't choose it. No one will ever choose it. But if it happened, maybe that's your piece of the world to bring out. Maybe that's your piece to make beautiful in the world. Why? What'd you do in a past life? Why did God give me this job? I don't know. I could fight it my entire life and destroy myself. Or I could just say, I accept, I understand, this is for me, and I will come through with it, and I will rise to my higher and higher levels within each point of pain that you were given, not that you created, that you were given. There's a place of beauty to come out through it in you that no one else can bring into the world except you. No one. And that's why you got it. You are not superfluous. You are not some random atom. You are necessary. And therefore, everything that you got in this world and every pain that you've gotten in this world is necessary. Hashem saved that part for you to do. No one else is doing it. Hashem saved that for you to do, that for you to build your consciousness and come closer. We all need you. We're all interconnected. Just like the husband and a wife are two souls together, so all of the Jewish people are together. When you actually do your part, it gives me strength to do my part. And if you don't do it, who's going to do it? We all need it. You know, at the Shiva, no one talked about his Armani suit. By the way, he got an Armani suit on eBay for $50. No one talked about the Armani suit. You know, when his mom once gave him a Gucci watch, nobody talked about his fancy Gucci watch. They only talked about what an amazing human being he was. Why? Because once you die, that's when people start to get life and get what it's about. How much time do people devote to what they're going to do for a living? Did anyone talk about his job? How much time are you going to devote to who you're going to be in your life? At the end of the day, that is life. That is what it's about. How many years do we spend in university and in our LLMs and in our PhDs and our whatever? At least devote half of that to becoming the person you want to be. So that at the end of your life, Bezrat Hashem, should be till 120, you'll have something to show for it. Anyway, I know I have a friend, and she's in the diamond industry. She loves diamonds. Thank God she could afford it. And she said to me, you know what makes a diamond better than the other? You know what makes a very high quality diamond? She said, it's how many cuts it has in it. So that's pretty amazing. You know what makes a soul, a very high shining, high quality soul? How much it was able to go through and still shine. But thanks for listening.